And as we reflect upon that statement, that means, as I say this for myself, I know it to be true for you, that I am a face of God. I know that there is one eternal power that is everything. It is everything. Therefore, that's that common bond that each and every one of us share, regardless of anything else. And that power is spirit or God or whatever you want to call it, don't matter. And so as I declare this, I know that I go deep within myself and become relaxed. I let go, focus in the present moment, because right here and right now is always the only time I have. For the point of power is in the present moment. And so today I declare that I am willing to release any and all obstructions to the operation of truth within me. I give up anything that does not serve my higher or best interest. And I forgive and release any negativity towards any people and conditions. And most of all, I release all judgment of self. I forgive myself and accept that I am the face of God. So take these words into silence and give yourself permission to let go, to forgive, to give up anything that does not serve your higher and greater good. So now I experience the freedom that comes from a releasing any obstructions and know that I am a clean, clear, free-flowing vessel of God's love, energy, wisdom, kindness, and prosperity. And I know and accept that I am worthy of a greater good, and I am worthy of the very best in life, and I am worthy of loving experiences. So we go forward into today's session and beyond with an open and receptive mind, allowing the Spirit to guide us and present to us the reflection of the work that we've done and the wisdom of that which it is that we still need to do. So I accept this, I declare it, and I know it is now mine. And I know it for myself and for each and every one here in the room and everyone else listening. And so with that, I give thanks and let it be so. And so it is. Under the face of God, I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. Hold you in my heart. Of God, you are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You're a part of the face of God. Well, there you are. Welcome back. I think I got you in the right place. Okay, so today is a talk based on this month's theme, which is forgive. And the affirmation provided is, I willingly express the forgiving love of God. And so I thought, well, what I would do is talk about forgive and give up. And what I love about these monthly themes, so for example, 2 days ago, I get the little email from Bob prompting me about October. Now, I don't have to look at it right away. I'll look at it when I go home, give him something, and I won't even think about it for the whole month. However, what Spirit does for me, if you wonder why this stuff comes and why I talk about it and how it comes, it's because I always get to live my talk the month before I give it. And then I get to follow up to see how well I've done. So it's great. And so one of the toughest things is this idea of forgiveness. And we've all heard a lot about it. So I always try to look at a different way to present it to you with different examples so that maybe you twig something different within you. So I'm going to talk about forgiving both the head and the heart, managing the inner world of thought and emotion, and faith and fear. Now, when I prepare a lesson, usually I could talk for about 2 hours on it, so I got to get it down to 20 minutes. But it's some really interesting stuff here. Okay, so one of the things about forgiving, have you ever worked hard on forgiving somebody and you got to the point where, yes, I've got it, and then 6 months later you're walking down the street and you see him and you go, ah! Has that ever happened to anybody? No. And then you go, oh, what's the matter with me? Oh, I thought I'd forgiven him, and oh, I'm not very good at doing this. So then you beat yourself up. Anybody ever done that? How about more than once? Yeah, right. Okay, so one has to understand the forgiveness process because there's really two parts to it. There's the head and there's the heart. The head is easy when you get down to it. It takes a little bit of work. But that part that comes back is the heart. I had this very lovely lady that I did counsel with when I was in my center in Red Deer. And she come to me and she says, oh, yeah, I saw him the other day walking down the street and I went into a rage. And I go, who's he? That's my ex-husband. Oh, I thought you were divorced. We have been. How long? 10 years. I go, dear, you're not divorced with him. You still sleep with him every night. Now, we did the work after and she got clear and got a healing, but I will not tell you what she said to me. Very nice lady. You would not think that she knew those words, but she did do that. But that's because we got to work with the heart. We got to work with the feeling nature. And we have to be patient with ourselves because it's going to happen. Not once, not twice. It's going to happen a number of times with the same person. But eventually, and now you're going to say, well, how will I know what I've done? Because you're going to see him and not feel anything. It'll be neutral. And one of the things I always tell people to work with, well, they say you got to love them and forgive them. No, you don't. They say, I got to like them. No, you don't. You really don't. If you can, that's wonderful. It's better for you if you can. But what you must do is become at least neutral. And the acid test is when you see them or say hello, you don't have those feelings and you know they're there. And then later you can work at liking and loving them if you want. I got people there. I don't like them and I don't love them, but I don't feel any remorse or animosity against them. And I'm not willing to embrace that because there are so many other people, because I've released that step into my experience where I can have that with them. And they're gone. God bless them and let them go, because, some people bless you by coming and others bless you by going. Always remember that. So you have to learn, we have to learn, I have to learn how to manage and clean the inner channel. Ernest Holmes said there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. And that's what we got to realize. Truth operates through us clear, but we've got to provide the channel, and that's working at releasing. And so you go to the dictionary, and forgiving is always about somebody else or something else. And we know that, and so we work on that. However, it is not talked about in any of our dictionaries that says forgiving is something that you must do to self. Well, I'll work at all those first. You can, but that ain't going to cut it. You got to work on yourself first, and then you'll have the competency and capability and the desire to be able to work on others. Because there ain't no person in this whole world that's harder or worse on you than you are yourself. Anybody look in the mirror and find something wrong with you this morning? It is so easy to do that. So it's constantly a change of looking and altering the way you see things and forgiving yourself. It's easy to get stupid. It doesn't take much at all. You'll get stupid 3 or 4 times today. You just got to forgive yourself and move on. And then I got to tell you a story about the list. I've been in this a long time, but I had these 2 guys that were on my list. And I needed to talk to them. Now, how long do you think I've known I really needed to let that go? And I didn't up until something happened less than 2 years ago. Yeah. And I got an email from one of them who went into a 12-step recovery program and was doing all of the, make amends to everybody. And he had a lot to do. It took him a couple of 3 years. I guess it was a couple of 3 years he was working on it. Then he saved the biggest one to the last. And I got it. And it took me a couple of weeks of thinking about it, and talking to my brother about it and that. But then I got to a place where I could do it. And so I did it, and some wonderful things happened. He's doing really well, and I got a connection with him. And the other guy I don't ever care about, but I did come to the point where I could actually forgive him and got clear. So that opens up the channel for you. But when the channel opens up, have anybody ever had something happen to you that took you away from what you really wanted to do and loved to do, and you just couldn't do it? You were frustrated and upset and angry. Does that ever happen to anybody? Or is it just me? Yeah. And so one of the things I learned, in particular just recently, thank you God for giving me this, is that we have to learn how to give up adversity and move into something that can give you pleasure or positive construction things. So we all have that happen to you. And I go with this. I like motorcycling and hiking, as you all know. And I renewed my interest in motorcycling because I reacquired a Harley here a few years back. And I really like doing that. And I go on an annual trip. Before I didn't even have one. I still went with my friends that I've had for years. And this year I was so excited. And the week before I went, I fell and I cracked some ribbies. They're good now, but they aren't. So it took me away from doing that. And then the next adversity happened after that is I got some problem with my feet and I haven't been able to do any hiking this summer. So what do you think that would do to a guy like me when I love both of those so much, and that's what I do? It could take you right down the tubes. However, based on knowing the philosophy of teaching, you turn that adversity into something positive. So I'm okay now. So I took it about myself to organize these weekly motorcycle trips with anywhere from 6 to 10 guys, and about 8 of them, or 7 or 8 of them, I've known for 54 years. One guy for 62 years. So I've known them well. And that leads to another story that happened yesterday to me. One of the things happened when I burned out in 96 and 97. I had a very serious major burnout, lost everything. And I was riddled with panic and anxiety attacks. It took me a long time to get to the point of managing them. But I got to, and I'm going to negate that because I never did get rid of them completely. So every now and again, for some particular reason, something happens, and I have a panic and anxiety attack that just takes me right out. And I had one yesterday on the trip with my buddies in a situation where I was just extremely comfortable. I couldn't deal with it, and I panicked and I left by myself. And then I checked back with him and told him what had happened, and I'd meet him in Longview. And so, okay, I had to get away because I can't deal with anything unless I get away by myself. And so there I am putting up that road at about 100 clicks in a beautiful day with no wind and just by myself and just part of everything. And the mountains were spectacular and gorgeous. And I was right there. Now I know I am God. Because there was nothing else that could have been there in that moment that could have been any better because there was no obstructions here. And I just reveled in that experience, and I needed to be by myself to have it. Unfortunately, I had to have what happened to be able to get there, and then I hooked up with everybody in Longview. So when stuff like that happens, you don't feed it. Don't feed the demon. The demon's there, acknowledge it, have the experience, then turn that adversity into something positive. I know you say, easy to say, and you're right. But when you get there and the rubber hits the pavement, then you know you're connected and going. You got to move forward because it's always about that. And whatever's there is the past. The past has no demand for the present and no interest in the future. Our mind is always in the present moment. When the past comes forward, we deal with it, release it, because now is the only time. Then there's that next idea of managing the inner world of thought and emotions, in particular anger. How'd you like to know a tip on that? Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics, my favorite quote by Eric Butterworth. And I've read a lot, and Eric Butterworth and Ernest Holmes are my two favorite authors. And he says, what is your most important asset? Helps with my accounting background too there, you see. The balance sheet. If you carefully search within yourself, you may come to the awareness that your most important asset is the conscious control of your own life. Nothing else can satisfy or fulfill unless you enjoy the freedom that comes from the control of your own inner world of mind and emotions. So one of the things I like to talk to people about and give them the example of about how this works is with anger. And I have a program I do called Self-Sabotage, A Prisoner of My Own Mind. And it's something that was the first 11 years of my journey. And I'm going to be doing that in January. But one of the things that we've got to do with anger is know that underneath that anger, it's not a thing of itself. There's a hurt there. And the only reason that there's anger is because that hurt was never expressed. So we have to learn how to express our feeling in an appropriate manner. And one of the ways I do is I tell people to process it, feel it, and then go back to the person and say, when you said or did this, I felt I'm stupid, let's say. Got that? Non-adversarial. So I teach people how to do that, and that's just a little thing that you could begin to look and work with. And it helps get into the, what I used to do to get out of my anger. I had a lot of anger and rage. Is I would drive about 8 clicks out of town, 11, 12, 2 in the morning, and pull over, and I get out of the car, and I yell and cry and holler. I mean, let her rip for about half an hour until it was over. Then I go back. I haven't been on a trip like that for years, but I was going quite regularly. Okay? So that's one of the things that you can do, just a little tidbit. The last idea quickly is faith and fear. They're strange companions and bedfellows, but they do go together. Because you're always in a position when you're working with things, you're always in a position of faith or fear. Faith is when you go do it, trusting you're going to need what you need when you do it. And living in the fear of doing that is all your doubts, worrying, negativity. Okay, that takes you out of it. That takes you into fear. And I always said that, that fear, I come across this, fear is not really real, I should say. Fear is simply the product of thoughts that you create. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. And of course, you got to learn, and everybody has fear no matter what, but you have to learn to park your fear, stand in the light to deal with the experience, then you can pick up and process your fear part later. Easy to say. I've done very well at that. I practiced that quite a bit over the years, so I'm getting good at it, or better, let's put it that way. Then his other little thing, and a quote, and I'll leave you with that to contemplate and think about. Fear knocked, faith answered the door, there was no one there. Got that? Fear knocked, faith answered the door, there was no one there. Okay? Keep that in mind. And Ernest Holmes said about faith, he says, faith is the power of prayer. It is a mental attitude against which there is no longer any contradiction in the mind that entertains it. No contradiction. Faith is a mental attitude which is so convinced of its own idea, which so completely accepts it, that any contradiction is unthinkable and impossible. Before such a mental attitude can be created, there must be nothing left in the subjective state of our thought which contradicts our objective affirmation. So that's that cleansing. And if you stand in the truth and the light, you don't have to say, well, what do I need to work on to get that? You don't have to do that. You just stand there and take that position, and anything you need to release will come forward to try and stop you from doing it. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So as we go forward from here, right now, know that there is a willingness with each and every one of us to release and give away all attachments to anything from the past or anything from the future. Experience the joy of now, knowing that what we sow comes to us down the line, and the joy in life can only experience now. It's not about being something later. It's only about being it now. You're never going to be happy later, and you ain't never going to be happy yesterday. You can only be happy now, and that's a choice. So I am happy. I declare it and accept it for each one here, and so it is. So it is.